What's up, YouTube? Hope everything is well with you guys. Today I have an amazing guest. I have Miles in Instagram. I believe his nickname is lafc.gooner, right?
Yep.
And it's a pleasure to have you with me. Maybe in this case, a lot of my viewers do not know you. So if you can share a couple of words with them, do a quick presentation about yourself, it will be great.
Hey, my name is Miles. I'm lafc.gooner on Instagram. I've been in cards maybe about, I don't know, more than 20 years, like similar to you, Andre. I started in Magic the Gathering when I was a little kid, growing up watching it on ESPN, grew up into like a small time dealer, saw the world through the game, grew up, went to college, picked up sports cards. I pretty much learned like a lot of the verticals of the space, and I've stuck ever since, and now I do soccer cards.
All right. No, yeah. I mean, I think your account on Instagram is a nice following. You are always posting nice stuff, and not only that. When you post stuff, you tend to actually put some thoughts on what you are posting, and I personally like to read that type of stuff. I think is great. As you know, I will leave all your information below the video or even on the screen. So I strongly recommend my viewers to check you out. I know you watch this podcast, so you are aware of what's going on. At the start, I will shoot you 5 questions. You give me your first thoughts, then we go back and have a longer conversation about them. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'll start right now. Question number 1. From what I know, you are, I would say, very invested into the ultra-modern market. I'm talking about soccer. Tell me your favorite 3 sets to collect in that specific area. I'm talking about, in this case, ultra-modern.
Ultra modern. Right now I'm obsessed with 15-16 Flawless. I love Noir. Haven't bought barely anything from it because a lot of it is just too scarce to find. And as third, I'd probably, can I cop out and say 2017 Chrome? I'll cop
Of
out and say
course.
2017. Yeah,
No,
we'll call Chrome third.
Is a nice set. So, question number 2. What is your favorite player to collect, and also your favorite player to invest? I'm of course talking about soccer.
Favorite player.
By the way, maybe is the same player. I'm just giving you more options.
Okay, my guilty pleasure is definitely buying Mesut Ozil cards. I have never turned down buying a nice one, which is to my detriment. And favorite player to invest in, it's on again, cop out answers, but it's probably Cristiano and Messi based on like the depth of those collectors, right? It's like Jordan LeBron Kobe collectors. It's the same thing.
Okay. Question number 3. There is a lot of speculation right now on the market about the growth of the space, about the growth of the collectible space, the card market. Some people believe, and fanatics tends to actually say this, that the market can go up 5x or even 10x. 4 years from now, around the World Cup time in America, if you have to put a number, how bigger, if you believe will be bigger, but I assume that will be the case, you believe the soccer card market will be 2x bigger, 5x? I'm just giving you some ideas.
By 2026,
exactly.
I'd safely say I think we're, based on what I'm seeing abroad, I think we're going to double to triple the size of collectors, because I think the core collector base of what we started with in 2018, 2019 was incredibly small. And to grow that exponentially from like, I don't know, it's like 1,500 people to like 5,000, that's exponential. And then 5,000 to 15,000. Yeah, that's also exponential from there too. So okay. Yeah, I can see that growth.
Question number 4. I also know you collect way more stuff than soccer. What other markets are you investing right now that you believe is actually could at least is a potentially nice opportunity for people to look into? I know you are into F1. I also know you collect some Magic the Gathering. I believe even some Star Wars TCG. Again, give me your thoughts on that.
I'm again, another cop-out answer. I think every alternate asset vertical is a viable investment source as long as you're doing the research into it, right? Like I saw a guy post the very first print run of a Lucky Charms box from the United States, like the original one from like the 1930s, I think. That was a fantastic collectible to find, but you and I would not think that cereal boxes are not a viable investment vertical, but yet it is. You just have to have the creativity and the thought process in finding everything that you want to find.
Okay. Okay, we'll go back into that later. Question number 5, and this could be a fun one for you. It's probably a little bit difficult, but what's your most unpopular opinion in the card market, in the soccer card market in general?
Most popular opinion?
Unpopular.
Oh, a most unpopular opinion. Prospects are vastly overpriced. Legends are horrendously underpriced given their print runs.
Okay, I agree with that. So going back to the question number 1, end up asking you about your 3 favorite ultra modern sets, and you end up telling me Flawless, Noir, and Topps Chrome. Expand a little bit more into that, because I follow, like I told you, your Instagram, and you post a lot of Flawless. You really seem to really enjoy the set. What's the reason behind that? Why, again, is I would say a high-end set, so automatic is easy to understand why so many people like those cards, but expand a little bit more your thoughts, basically.
So I think you and I both know why Panini was able to bring modern soccer cards, ultra modern soccer cards, to an American market, right? Like, there have been many companies that tried before, like Upper Deck notably tried with just the Manchester United sets. There were like the piecemeal Topps Premier League that they tried to bring to market, but nobody was particularly successful in doing like a regular soccer release year over year. And when like, if you ask me as a whole, when we look back on the Panini era of modern, ultra modern sports cards, and you ask what the greatest contribution that Panini has provided to the space, in my horrendously biased opinion, I'm going to tell you that Panini bringing soccer cards to the market is their greatest contribution. Like, before 2014, there was no concerted effort to even make a regular soccer card release year after year. And the sets struggled to be produced consistently year after year. Like, we see the gaps of whether they produced them, because they didn't produce them consistently because they couldn't get everything together. And now, when the page turned entirely from 2018, 2019, now I can tell you with confidence that soccer card products will be produced year after year from this point on, to the point of overproduction, right? Like, it's now a thing here and forever. And I think it's an amazing contribution. So when I name sets like Panini, Flawless, or Noir, I feel like these are the apex of what they were able to accomplish in the early years of when they were actually trying to create the medium as an actual thing, right? Because like, this product, all the products were such wild cards, because like, when you unpack it all, it was obviously a product that was designed to be purchased by that high-end basketball collector that's out in Asia, clearly evidenced by like the quantity of the cards that are out there. And it was a complete risk, but they did such a good job executing it to sell it, to build that community that exists to this day. And like, it's just something that I doubt we're going to see of that quality maybe for years, to be honest, unfortunately. And so that pretty much sums up like both my sentiments on Noir and for Flawless. I like Eminence as well, but there are some execution issues that I had issues with, like the Thierry Henry. Like, it hurts me to know that I can't get a super nice Thierry Henry out of Eminence because he signed in that black or blue Sharpie on all his cards, so they're not visible. So there are some execution issues with that set, and it's player worn, not match worn. And then for Topps Chrome, I feel like that was Topps' first intention, like real intention, because they saw themselves losing steam to Panini, that they had the licenses. That's when they actually stepped up their game and produced a real set. And, now I think the soccer community generally feels that Topps is putting out higher quality soccer products than Panini is right now. But this is a luxury that we collectors currently have that the rest of the sports card collecting community does not have. And I don't know how much longer it'll last.
Yeah. About Topps Chrome, you also said could be your third one. Basically, I guess you like more Topps than Panini. It's safe to say at this point, right?
I would like to see, like, I don't know what high, like, give me a Topps dynasty for Champions League, you know, like put in that effort. Like, that's what I want to see. They've fleshed out the low end excellently. They have a great product offering for that, but they haven't ventured into the high end. And what I want to see as a collector, like when I think about cards, is especially specifically sports cards, I want to know the cost of manufacturing the card is high, right? Like I want to know that you're paying the money to get Mbappe's signature. So I have a chase opening the products that are already overpriced. Give me a chase worthwhile. Go pay for the match worn shirt and put it into the product. You know, like I want the cost basis per card to be high. So there's value to me as a collector. Topps hasn't done that yet, but Panini has. But I don't know if Panini will replicate it anytime soon. So far, it's been a mixed bag, but they're still, you know, at least they're still trying. But it's the pandemic and it's going to take time for things to shake out. But, you know, I can only make the judgments on the products that I see before me.
No, for sure. On this question, I can't add a lot since ultra modern, honestly, is not a market that I care that much. But I mean, yeah, I have eyes. I think Flawless looks nice. I think Eminence looks nice. If I had to put, if I was trying to enter the ultra end stuff, those sets at least I would have them in consideration. About Panini not making an effort, I understand your point if you're talking about an American perspective, but Panini made a lot of nice product in Europe. I understand not high-end product, a regular collector type of product in Spain, in Portugal. Just think about the rookies for Ronaldo and Messi, the main ones. They are Panini Mega Cracks, and Mega Cracks in Portugal at one point was a big deal. In Spain is also quite a huge deal. So when this discussion, and is to be fair, is not what is not the topic here, but when people start comparing Panini and Topps, again, in the ultra modern side, you probably know more than me. But when it comes to pre-modern or even vintage, I mean, first of all, there is not a lot of Topps, but I still like Panini the most, since in terms of lineage, I associate Panini and soccer quite a lot. Actually, Panini is Panini because of soccer. Some people forget that, but they started a company in Italy to make soccer stickers for Serie A, and the rest is basically history. So I think your answer was great. Again, I can't add a lot since I do not play on that market, but yeah, I like it.
Can we go back to that real fast too? Like that's the amazing thing about this space too, right? Like the developing culture of two different markets. Technically, we have three because it's like Asia, United States, and Europe, right? Panini's legacy within Europe is great, far greater than what Topps is to, well, probably I would say equal. Let's say equal. Is what Topps did for baseball cards is what Panini does for soccer collectibles, right? Bringing it into the mainstream. And like a lot of people grow up with it just because the collecting culture isn't as savvy as the American one is quite yet. This is why we're seeing this is why Topps invested so much money into intellectual properties that are all European sports, right? They invested into F1, they're investing into tennis, they're investing into soccer, they're investing into combat sports, right? Like I don't know if they've done a boxing release yet, but they probably should in the near future. But they're building all these products because they clearly are trying to take from Panini that market share that they have because the brand is so established. The game is completely different, right? Like that's an entirely new developing group of people, group of collectors that we see. Like, did you see the London card show where they brought the Premier League trophy to the card show? Like, there's no card show in America they would bring the Super Bowl trophy to. But you know, the culture is growing and it's amazing, right? Amazing. Like we're seeing it before our eyes.
For sure.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll talk about it in the next question. But yeah,
just one thing about Topps. Actually, big part of the market, because they, at least I believe, they don't know this, but Topps is Again, I still believe Panini is quite more important, but Topps still made nice product in soccer, even in pre-modern, even in vintage. Some people do not know, but for example, the Zico card, the ping pong card 78, which have Socrates, Careca, other great players. Ping pong was a sub-brand from Topps. Topps was actually the company doing the cards. And same ended up happening with Merlin stickers, Merlin cards. Most people know about the rookie for David Beckham, where he ended up scoring an amazing goal. That card is actually a Topps card. So
yeah, I have it. I have it somewhere in the house. But yeah,
but it's actually crazy because PSA and other companies they graded actually Merlin. But imagine if in the label they put Topps. I honestly believe can increase the price a little bit on the card. And to be fair, there is argument to be made on that because Ediciones Este at one point ended up getting bought by Panini. And I saw a couple of stickers already that PSA puts Ediciones Este Panini. So they recognize that Panini ended up buying Ediciones Este. So they already go Panini Ediciones Este. So if they go Topps Merlin, I also believe that can make a lot of sense, or at least will be consistent with.
Absolutely right. Like you're talking about Topps Merlin, and then you sprinkle David Beckham on the top, right? Like you and I both know that David Beckham is a great player, but like Americans think that he was like a multi-Ballon d'Or winner, but he's not. But he has that brand, so you're like, it's perfect, right? Top, you're looking for David Beckham's first Topps card. Right?
No.
That's it, right?
No,
Literally
and
everything.
the card is already quite iconic in the pre-modern market. But imagine if they start labeling that card that actually the rookie for David Beckham is a Topps card. Not saying it will be a game changer by any means, but I honestly believe could be a nice touch on the card on this market.
It's a great card. I think I saw a 9 sell for like what 750 on the last golden. Like it's not like impossible, but it's a very nice card for something like that. Very nice card.
I believe a 9 is selling a little bit below 1K, but I'm not sure. It's a card that I've been not tracking recently, basically.
Yeah, it's not something that's going to explode, but yeah.
I actually am preparing a video soon that the SGC 8.5 sold, I believe, for $300, which seems a nice deal.
Yeah, very affordable.
Again, moving on to the second question, I end up asking you what's your favorite player to collect and invest, and you end up saying collecting is actually Ozil. People at this point, I believe they already know you are a huge Arsenal fan. And you said to collect basically Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. I'm with you on investing. I also love to invest in Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. Ozil, of course, not a player that I don't even believe I own.
Maybe for like 10 games out of one season, maybe, but still.
No, Ozil, and actually people forget, but Ozil was quite an impressive player at one point in time. When I believe he started on Wolfsburg, then he ended up getting called to Germany.
Schalke.
Yeah, Schalke, then Wolfsburg or Werder Bremen. I'm honestly not sure, but
yeah.
But one of those two, and he ended up getting called to play for Germany, and he played amazing on the tournament. I believe the first big tournament for him was 2010 South Africa.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say this because I'm talking from the top of my head, but I believe he was actually the kid of the younger player of the World Cup. But again, don't quote me on this, or at least was in that conversation. And again, he ended up having great seasons at Real Madrid, and I would say a couple of good seasons with Arsenal. So it's fair to say you probably like him more as a passion than actually thinking in terms of value investing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's more of a, you have connections to players that help you, that like teach the game to you, right? So like I actually grew up a huge hockey fan. I'm from San Jose, so I root for the Sharks. The Sharks made like a massive trade at the time for Joe Thornton, who played in Sweden, so he's like actually very popular in Europe too. But his play style, well, he's this huge man whose play style was finding the invisible pass, like making the read, making a perfect pass. So like that was how I started to learn the illustration of like how the game of hockey was supposed to be played rather than just like watching the guy with the puck and seeing him shoot and score. So when I finally had access to watch a lot of games for soccer when I was in college, or like, as NBC got the Premier League rights and I was able to watch a lot of games, I gravitated towards a player like Xavi, who was that exact player. He was Thornton's counterpart on the pitch. And then, it was amazing. I remember that day on deadline day where Arsenal closed the transfer for Mesut Ozil, and I was over the moon, like, one of the greatest young players in the world, stealing the number 10 from Real Madrid, the exact player mold that I had always wanted to see play. Like I was going to be able to like watch his entire Arsenal career from day one, right? So like I felt that connection instantly. His play was magical. I had never seen someone with that kind of technical ability while I was like avidly watching Arsenal. And then I actually learned to love the man the more I watched him, right? Like after he won the World Cup, he donated all his winnings to South African children, paying for their surgeries. He donated all his money away. Then he started doing like then he like started the infighting with Arsenal after he spoke out against the Uyghur Muslim treatment by China. Like the the courage that he displayed to speak out about something like that. Like, I know some people may not agree of his methods or anything like that, but a man that like valued his morals over his fame, something that I really connected with. And like, I don't know, I just love the guy. Like I tend to like all the misunderstood guys, and it's part of the game. It's part of the culture. I love it.
And he was a great player. I mean, I also have nice memories of Mesut Ozil, not with Arsenal, but when Cristiano Ronaldo was playing at Real Madrid, of course, I was a big fan of Ozil. I mean, Ozil was incredible. Actually, that Real Madrid team was quite interesting because they ended up actually getting also Di Maria, which was very young at the time, James Rodriguez. So they have Isco. They had so much talent. And if you think about, probably Maria was the one having the best career of the names I said, and at the time Ozil and Isco probably have bigger potentially than
Isco was.
So this actually puts in perspective how difficult it is to predict this type of stuff being real. His situation, if I'm correct, was similar to Mbappe. His contract was ending at the end of the next year, so Real Madrid ended up accepting, I believe, 30 million or 60 million. I honestly don't remember, but I remember was quite low for what player Ozil was.
I was joking with a friend of mine who's a huge Madrid fan, and he was like, "I'm so excited! I need to get Mbappe in a Madrid shirt." I looked at it and I'm like, the apex of the excitement I've had for transfers in the last like 10 years or more than 10 years now is getting the scraps from Real Madrid and Barcelona in Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil, right?
No, Alexis is another guy that was insanely good when it went to Arsenal, and still had great season. So
yeah.
About the investing, you said Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. I would say probably the two players I also buy the most on the market. So I automatically tend to agree with you. I believe that Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, they have different markets than any other player. So yeah, I'm quite bullish on those. I already explained my reasons so many times on this channel. I would love to know yours.
So I've actually spent a lot of time thinking about this. Like, when I was younger, like in my 20s and stuff, I always like tried to fight against the norms, because like like when you join the hobby, they're like, just buy the goats, just do these things. Because like I was too young. Like, looking back now that I'm in my 30s, you look back at like what you were buying back then, like you getting caught up in the hype of a prospect. I realized that when I was collecting the prospects, when I was buying, and the entire time that I was spending investing in them, I had not even been in the hobby long enough to see the full development cycle of a prospect, because that takes a big part of your life. Like you may never, like you may never see what the full potential of a player is even after 10 years. Like it takes a long time to see what the full cycle is, and for people to make those like snap judgments, or like to like I was like prospecting baseball, and I would look way too much into like triple A or like minor league stats, or like a couple weeks of a season, getting way too excited about it. And I never like stopped and took a look back as to like how irrelevant all those little events are in the grand scheme of things. Yes, there's money to be made here and there, but like it's just something I like. It's just something you grow out of because you realize there's a much bigger picture. And like I was in the hobby early. And like if I had changed my mindset back then and had just done the obvious, right? Done like went out, bought Tom Brady, bought Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, the easy ones, my life would be dramatically different today than what it was before. And what I feel now, looking at this space, looking at where we are developing as a whole, it's just, it feels exactly the same. You have once in a generation, once in a generation, right? Like if we're gonna parse the generations, it's Pele, Maradona, I don't know, I guess Zidane, Ronaldinho, then Messi, Ronaldo, right? Like, but except Messi and Ronaldo exceed the previous generations. This is like once in a lifetime talent that we're seeing play in front of us. And this is the one time you have in your life to buy these collectibles as the market is growing. Like we're facing so many corrections, all these other things happening in the market right now. But again, this I'm not looking at now. I'm not looking at now. I'm not looking at 5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now. Like this is my opportunity once and forever to invest into something that I truly love and to set myself up to be that kind of person. Like the depths of a Jordan, the depths of knowledge of like a Jordan, Kobe, LeBron collector. They know every card, every insert, every relevant thing, right? Ticket stubs, jerseys, everything. It's the same thing with Messi and Ronaldo. Anish, I'm sure you saw him get the shirt from that El Clasico. It's an iconic piece. If you had if if the Jordan flu game playoff jersey ever hit the market, do you think someone with Anish's bankroll could have possibly bought that jersey? It would have been impossible. Impossible. But he bought something of historical relevance that is maybe a once in a lifetime find because he's able to participate in that market here and now. And it's a huge accomplishment to buy something like that. And I'm dumbstruck. It's once in a lifetime. Once in a lifetime.
What's up, guys? Hope you are enjoying this conversation with Miles. For me, this was an amazing conversation, probably one of the best ones I had on this channel, and I hope you feel the same. If in the end end up enjoying this one, again, do not forget to leave a like, means a lot, and it's super easy to do it. Apart from that, always consider to subscribe. Let me say a couple of things, guys, and this is quite important to be honest. I have a Patreon community and I have a Discord community. Let's start with the Patreon community. Look, the Patreon is basically the best way to support my work. I have a lot of members there already, and I'm very thankful for that. But of course, I don't just ask for you guys to subscribe to the Patreon community, and that's that. I try to provide value there. I put a new extra audio, which you can call almost another podcast that I do on Patreon. I put that audio on Saturday. Tends to be between 10 to 20 minutes audio, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. But the thing that I actually spend a lot of time doing is actually my Q&As. As you can see, this is an example. I basically make a long video where I answer questions from my Patreon members. I made one also every week. In this case, is on Wednesday. And I made more than 38 at this point. Actually, there is the 39 that I will release today. So yeah, a lot of work that I put in the Patreon community, and people think that most of my content are on YouTube, and to be fair, that's true. But what I mean to say is, in a weekly basis, at least right now, I'm putting probably as much as content on Patreon as I put on YouTube. So if you like my content, being part of the Patreon community is a must if you really want to have access to all the content I put out. And like I say, if you like my content on YouTube, a very likely scenario you like my content on the Patreon community. And as you can see, the community tends to interact. We have, I believe, great conversations on the Patreon side. And again, my amazing place to learn about the soccer card market is $10. If that's a lot of money to you, do not even consider to join, okay? Because if you want to join the Patreon, $10 should be something that you are quite comfortable paying, and that's it. I will not even try to try to convince you that $10 is not a lot of money. No, $10 can actually be a lot of money for some people, and if that's the case, stay away. Another thing that I would say, and in this case is totally free, is actually my Discord community. I think it's an amazing place to learn about the soccer card market, to chat with other collectors. I'm sorry, and it's totally free. We are more than 500 members, so if I was telling you that the Patreon is $10, again, Discord is free, so there is almost no reason to not join my Discord. And like I said, if you want to learn about the pre-modern market, the vintage market, the entire soccer card market, like I tend to say, we focus a little bit more on pre-modern, but this is a nice place to be in, and I tend to believe most of the people on my Discord are very nice people, and I try to moderate. I try to keep this a friendly space, if that makes sense. So let's continue with the conversation, and hope you guys still enjoy the last part of the podcast. No, for sure. And like you said, I mean, sometimes we tend to complicate things a little bit too much, and I struggle with that quite a lot because, look, I have the most of the pre-modern legends, most of the legends from vintage, rookie, early stuff. I have a lot of that stuff, but sometimes I question myself about that. As a collector, I enjoy that. As a pure investor, pure value, looking at just value, trying to set up myself in a good way to the future, to the potential growth of the market. I question if I should sell a couple of my vintage cards, a couple of my pre-modern cards, and consolidate more into Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, because I believe there is an argument to be made on that front. I'm a little bit likely in the sense that, guess what? Two of my favorite players are actually Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. So it's not like that I'm collecting two guys that I do not enjoy. Of course, me being Portuguese, Cristiano Ronaldo is a very important person in my life. In Portugal, we talk about him all the time. And Messi, I mean, Messi is Messi. Everyone knows his talent. Everyone knows how important he ended up being in this era. And yeah, it's something that I struggle a lot. So I think it's interesting that you said that sometimes we complicate too much, because I also agree with that. But again, as a collector,
it's boring. I know it's the same players, but I mean, you find niches to make it interesting, right? Like I collect other yeah.
No, for sure. And even as a collector, look, if you just collect Lionel Messi, you have so much stuff to look. I mean, so many inserts in pre-modern, so many inserts in ultra-modern. I mean, there is so much stuff that you can explore on the Messi market, on the Cristiano Ronaldo market. So, but again, sometimes looking at the history of the soccer card market, trying to, and you look at I don't know, a Maradona rookie, a Pelé rookie, it's difficult to not feel tempted to also buy those two guys. To be fair, I'm talking about the other two goats, so I would say the market tends to be bigger for those four guys. If I'm saying that in pre-modern, Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo are giant, of course. In vintage, Maradona and Pelé are also big. But for example, I don't know, a guy like Beckenbauer, Platini, Zidane are players that are super interesting to collect. Will those guys perform better than a Cristiano Ronaldo card that money wise at this point are very comparable? That I'm not sure, but again, it's difficult to predict. So who knows? Yeah.
I fully agree, but I also have soft spots for Pelé and Maradona.
No,
and the rest
me
of them
also.
Absolutely.
No, actually, my struggle, I end up saying Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, but actually, when I start thinking about this stuff, is should I consolidate into all the four goats? I end up saying Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, but I also love to collect Maradona and Pelé. But yeah, it's something.
I got this the other day. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You are going to Maradona ultra high-end stuff. It's a beautiful card for sure.
I mean, it's just it's that one thing, you know, like that Maradona was one like I I missed a chance. Like I remember I was like aggressively trying to look for one when they were like maybe a few $1,000s, like right before it was like maybe a month before he passed, and nobody wanted to sell them already because of like his price versus like his price of like where the cards were. And then he passed, and I remember I had a deal done with a friend of mine to purchase it from him. Then he passed, and then he rightfully said, I don't want to sell this anymore. And he held on to it. And I think I paid triple, quadruple the price of where it was then, to acquire the one that I have now. But these are the things that like everyone's talking about. The sky is falling right now. Literally everyone is talking about the sky is falling in the market with your base prisms and all the other things. But the things that are actually meaningful to a lot of people have grown exponentially in value, and with the help of no influencers. Like I talked to someone yesterday who didn't even know what Maradona was famous for. They don't know what clubs he played for. They barely know what World Cup he was famous for. They maybe know the hand of God, but they think he was just famous for that one play, right? Like they don't know much about the man. But it's one of those things that like this is something that we'll never have again, you know? Like I'm looking forward to the day that Mbappe or Zidane finally signs an ultra modern card for us. But for Maradona, it'll be never, like now and forever. Like if I took all my if I took all my collecting instincts, right, and applied it to any other athlete of Maradona's renown, and you said you had a finite number of high-end products or high-end cards for someone like Maradona, it would be an easy push for me to say you should probably buy everything of Maradona you can possibly find. And it's the same. It's the same for Pele, right? Like unfortunately, he's aging aggressively. His handwriting is constantly getting worse, and it reminds me, unfortunately, a lot of what happened with Hank Aaron. And these are things that I don't want to let. I don't want to miss it again. You know, like Magic the Gathering. I used to go to Grand Prix all the time, and I saw Chris Rush sitting there at the booths. I had stacks of Power Nine that he could have signed for me, and I didn't have him do anything because I was the most stuck up person in the world and thought literally this man's signature is going to devalue the card because I can't sell it on the secondary market. My dealer instinct overcame my collector instinct. And I look back on it as a 30-year-old and I regret everything I did because now and forever, I'll never have something from someone that meant so much to me. Like it's things you're going to miss and things you'll regret.
So yeah, about the what you're saying about Magic the Gathering, I totally agree with you. And even look, Maradona, like you said, is a nice example of someone that end up dying quite young, automatically end up bringing more value to his market. But again, I mean, what you said is actually quite beautiful, and I appreciate the words, and yeah, I think my viewers will also like what.
I mean, I think it even expands a little further than that because like I've put a lot of thought about this too because like soccer is a unique game because people don't understand coming from the United States where every athlete in every game in every sport they all come from America. Like people don't understand what Maradona means to Argentinians, bringing up a third world country and making them well known. Like that was why Pele was famous, right? Because Brazil wanted to move into a world like, a substantial country in the world, right? And they were trying to do it on the pitch. And it's the same thing with Portugal. It's the same thing with Spain. It's the same thing with Sweden, with Iceland, with Norway, everyone, like it's every country is unique and the legends for each country are special to them forever. The collector bases are completely unique. All your favorite players have so much more importance to their specific countries. And, like you may love someone and then before you know it, they're gone. Robin Van Persie may not mean the same to me as someone else, but when that day comes and you have wanted to get something, maybe you should prioritize your collecting goals as to where you want to go, right? Like finding an amazing Johan Cruyff, even after he's passed, only makes things more difficult. Finding those autographs, finding ticket stubs, finding special memorabilia, because they just can't make any more. It's very different, and it's a little sad, but we get older and you learn more about collecting in life as you continue on.
No, I mean, I understand your point of view. I personally, I guess I don't get that attached to players. And again, I will be honest. For me, the only thing that I kind of care is my family, my friends, and will I be sad if Messi one day dies? Look, of course I have, like you said, I have memories, etc. I was sad about Maradona, but I would be hypocrite saying that ended up impactful on my life in a huge way. Again, it is what it is. And people deal with this type of stuff in a very different way. Every person, again, is sometimes is even about your religion, about the way you look at things in life. I guess I'm maybe a little bit cold on that front, but it is what it is.
Yeah, everyone's different. Everyone's different, but
No,
it's good to be mindful.
No, for sure,
Yeah.
and I totally understand your side, and I respect your position. Moving on to the question number 3, and I think this is a more fun one. There is a lot of speculation about the growth of the market, and then I'm asking you again a fun question. In 2026, around the World Cup time, how big do you believe the market will be? And you said at least 2x, 3x. Again, this is just a fun question. It's so difficult to predict this type of things. But why you believe that the market can actually double in 4 years?
It's not the reason why I'm so bullish on it for the long term is that it's not so much the growth targeted towards the American customer base, because like when I first entered, I don't know, was it like three and a half years ago now? When I first entered, the market was intrinsically controlled by Americans, because like the fallacy of the current market as it stands is that only American auction houses are scraped to create what controls what people define as the comps or the price, right? And that's a problem in itself. But in reality, a lot of the modern collecting was stored away in Asia, and we don't have resources to track those prices, to learn what the inner doings are. And a lot of the transactions were done in ways where you can't specifically track the price, right? Like I can't tell you the number of times I bought from like, one of those like post sales where on Facebook where people are just like posting the cards within the thread. And how are you supposed to track those sales? What data platform do they go to define those prices? They're just not reported, so people don't think that the market is legitimate. So a lot of the focus was put onto America. Like at the same time, like when I was opening cases of 2017 Chrome for fun, I would get stickers from GTS where you would see the sticker where it was housed in like California, then they shipped it over to Taiwan, then you'd see all the stickers from all the imports because they couldn't sell the product, and then it ended up back in California, and then I would open it for fun, right? And it's like when the market is built like that, it tends to be a focus on America. But now that things have changed dramatically and a huge amount of investment is going into building infrastructure overseas, as it should, I see an entire new collector base growing. And it's the best part is that like the last couple of years, everything has been controlled by influencers. Every card that people gravitate towards, even now, like just now with like the PMGs, the Marvel PMGs, people just jumped on to whatever influencers were pushing or like whatever was hot for the sales. Nobody talks about soccer, and I'm watching all these card shows develop in Europe, someone in Germany, see a bunch in London frequently. The attendance is good, people are organically growing themselves, being interested. Obviously, it's not at the super high end, 20, 50, $100,000 card yet, but I get to see a community grow organically. And that's one of the most pure things I've seen so far in a horrendously artificial market in literally everything else. And that brings me a lot of confidence. Brings me a lot of confidence.
No, for sure. I mean, well said. I agree with you. I mean, I'm so bullish on the soccer card market that at this point, people know will be 2x, will be 4x. Again,
Who knows?
difficult to predict, of course. But I also believe there is a lot of there is basically soccer have a lot of nice fundamentals to be in a better spot than it is right now in 4 years. And Fanatics talks a lot about pushing the international side of the market. And I mean, what better sport than soccer to do it?
Absolutely.
So I expect a lot of big things, and people know that I live in Europe, and I got a lot of questions from my viewers related with that. Do you see a difference in Europe? Look, the reality is, if we compare with America, look, it is night and day. I will not even try to say that Europe is the one running the market. Of course not. The Americans are crucial right now. But what can I tell you is this? 2 years ago, 3 years, maybe 4 years ago, most of my friends had no idea about Cristiano Ronaldo Mega Cracks 2002 or even the Panini sticker. Right now, everyone knows about those cards. I'm not saying those are collectors, but the awareness is quite different. A lot of news in Portugal end up coming about Cristiano Ronaldo sales. There is a lot of media attention already, and I know the same happens in Spain or in Germany, etc. One of my viewers on Discord was saying that in Italy there is a lot of influencers talking about cards right now. So yes, I mean, Europe is growing quite a lot. There is still a long road in front of us. I agree with that. But if you look at the market in Europe right now versus 2 years ago, 5 years ago, is also quite different. So people need to understand that things take time. I end up sharing with you an article about Magic the Gathering in 94. For people that don't know, Magic ended up coming out on 93. And then on 94, people end up believing that Magic the Gathering was potentially a bad market or without potentially going into the future. Guess what? It's probably the most important TCG in the world right now. Of course, with the hype on Pokemon is debatable, but historical tends to be one of the most important TCGs in the world, and the market is quite strong. But this,
hate to interrupt you, but what's amazing about that is we're talking about it. You know how vital Europeans are in developing those two markets. Like, if we think about what was the most expensive Pokemon card that was just sold, it was out of Saudi Arabia, not out of America, not out of anything else. These were the collectors that didn't even have the culture, that have the foundational pieces of the entire industry, and they're vital to the growth.
I actually love that you said that, because this is a topic that I don't talk a lot, but I think is a nice right now is a nice moment to put in perspective for a lot of my viewers that, again, sports cards in Europe, in Portugal, in Spain, they are growing, but they are not that big. But when it comes to TCGs, the culture is already quite stronger. I mean, I'm not, again, trying to compare to America, but I think is more comparable, if that makes sense. Look, I went to Grand Prix in Copenhagen, in Madrid, etc. So there is the culture is already in Europe, and in Pokemon, right now after the pandemic, who knows, but there was a lot of tournaments for Yu-Gi-Oh, for Pokemon, etc. Some of the biggest collectors that I know in Pokemon, they live in France. Some of the biggest collectors that I know about Magic the Gathering, they live in Germany. And like you said, one of the most expensive cards ever was from Qatar or Saudi. I'm not sure if it was Saudi Arabia or Qatar.
I'm guessing. But
I actually believe was Qatar, but again, irrelevant. Was outside of America, and the Pokemon market in particular end up helping the soccer market quite a lot. People do not realize this, but look, I'm a good example. When I I collected Magic for 20 years, more or less. I'm not sure. But look, I was collecting reserved list. I was actually also playing competitive, etc. And with time, it's very normal to see a card graded by PSA. And I was like, oh, what is this about? Why are people putting cards inside plastic? Yeah, at the time, what was a shock for me. Then I started thinking, okay, let me see other cards on this. And I saw Pokemon, then I saw Yu-Gi-Oh, then I saw Michael Jordan. And look, basketball, nice sport, but I don't care about basketball. Then I started looking into soccer, and one thing leads to another. There is almost a snowball effect when it comes to enter the soccer card market. It's not like that you think about soccer and you start investing in slabs. There is a process, and for example, my process on the TCG world, I believe, is very similar to a lot of people right now that end up coming from the Pokemon market. I actually have a lot of people that follow me on Instagram, and when I get to follow, I actually tend to look at the person, since I'm still a very small profile on Instagram, so I can afford to do that. I look at, a lot of times at the person, and if the person is from Europe, a lot of times that guy or girl, I'm not sure, collects Pokemon and then starts collecting soccer. So this is a complex topic, of course, and it's super difficult to tell you that if it's 20%, 30% that makes the crossover or not, but there is a giant crossover. And for example, I believe F1 right now, and you probably have more experience on the F1 market than me, but F1 have a crazy number of soccer collectors into the market that actually made a crossover, because now they understand the card market a little bit better, they understand the alternative market a little bit better, and F1 was almost a easy pickup. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree. And I'll take a step back too, is that a lot of people don't realize the importance of true education in this space, because the ultimate goal as to, like, I'm sure like why you're here is that we're all trying to build a sustainable hobby, and you do that through education. Like, you obviously can't handhold everyone in every buying decision that they make, but the sustainable collectors that are here for 10, 20, 50, your entire life, you do it by smartly collecting. There's obviously money in it. It's sustainable. You can continue to grow and go down your path. But the fundamentals you learn in doing something like Pokemon, then expanding it out after you're familiar with the space, branching out, learning something new as in soccer, then you learn something new in F1, other sports you enjoy. It's a passion project and everything grows along with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100% agree with you. Magic the Gathering for me was an amazing experience. Not first of all, was a lot of fun, and I end up learning a lot about value, because one thing that you learn quite at the beginning is a value trading on the table. So you get one card for two. So, and that's value, because you end up spending one card versus two cards of your opponent, and that we tend to say is a value trading. And as a kid, that was important for me to now understand value a little bit better, and to have a passion for this type of markets, to actually understanding that, for example, this probably could be a hot take, but I don't even believe a lot in momentum investment. I know some people do money with that, but for me, if you want to play on this market in the long run, looking at value and not at the price, something that I know I repeat quite a lot on this channel, is the way to go. Because if you start understanding that, look, the price can change one day on the card that you are buying, but as long you believe on that card in the long run, the value stays the same. The problem is people think long run sometimes is 6 months, and long run, even in an economic side, people tend to say, for example, 5 years at least.
Yes.
But the problem is big part of the market do not want to understand that. I get viewers that tell me, look, I'm playing the long run. They buy a card that I eventually end up talking. After 1 month, the card is down. They are asking what's going on. I mean, it's 1 month. What do you expect? So this is, again, is almost a tricky topic, because some people may feel offended by this, but a lot of people are BS, if that makes sense. Most people say they are playing the long run. The reality is they are not playing the long run. They say they are playing the long run because actually looks great if you say that, look, I'm a value investor, I'm a collector for the future, but sometimes it's not the reality, and yeah, it's a problem, honestly.
It's a big problem, and like, if people listen to this podcast and you want to take something home from this, like, be honest with yourself. How long have you been looking for that asset? What is your actual, like, do you actually have an exit strategy? Like, you don't actually need an exit strategy if you've done your actual homework to get a grasp on how difficult the asset is you're buying, right? Like, one thing I told myself a few years ago was that, like, I constantly looked for the bargains and I was going in and out because, like, I come from Magic the Gathering. So you're like buy list centric, buy list, buy list, buy list, right? So you have like that fixed price in your mind. And all of a sudden, like, I was shifting my thought process from like the day-to-day trading dealer to the actual collector because I didn't really have the time or the energy to invest in traveling all the time to get arbitrage, to grind out that value and all these things. And I shifted my energy into more of like a research component and like the time plus research component in finding something that I actually wanted. And I ended up finding that I tend to overpay for assets that I truly, truly believe in because I know how long I have been looking and how hard it is to make all the pieces to put it together.
But Miles, that makes sense. Overpaying for things that you overpaying. I mean, there is a level to overpaying. Of course, one thing is
Absolutely.
if you are paying 4x more than the market, but if you are paying 20% more, honestly, if you are playing the long run, that's not relevant. A lot of people get caught into the idea that they need to time the market in a perfect way. That's impossible. I mean, sometimes you'll regret more not buying right now if we are talking about an asset with great fundamentals, of course, not talking about things that lack those strong fundamentals, but trying to time the market for things that you believe is a little bit, I think, is irrelevant. I mean, not a market that I invest, but if you believe in Tesla, buying right now or buying tomorrow, honestly, is irrelevant as long you are playing the long game. And there is I'm not sure how is the expression in English, but I will make a translation from Portuguese: dollar cost invest. That you keep putting money, you keep putting money, you keep putting money, that eventually you end up covering the lows and the highs. And that's one of the most important things if you are playing the long run. Look, I'm buying when the market is down, I'm buying when the market is up. Look, and let's not be naive. Everyone, even if you try to be perfect, we try to time the market. Look, sometimes I think, look, this card is, I would love to have the card, but there is a couple of sales that end up spiking the card too much. So of course there is some type of timing the market, but I believe it's also important to understand that timing the market is always the best option, as long, and I actually say this a lot of my disclaimers, you spend that time well in the market learning, because you can be on the soccer card market for 10 years and you can be a totally disaster. Look, you need to put time into education. We end up talking about education. Look, education is the key of everything in life, in my perspective. If a country have high levels of education, normally that translates into a country with a lot of health. And
Absolutely.
that applies in my life, in your life. If you get more educated about the soccer card market, very likely scenario, you start making way better decisions than the decision that most people are doing, because people need to understand, look, putting time on the market is super important. And a lot of people, like I was saying, is BS. They tend to say that they put time in the market, they're playing the long run, because most people do not do it. That's the reality. That's why there is a lot of people starting business, and other people that also have a lot of potential do not start. Sometimes the biggest winners on the market are people that actually go and do it. Spend time grinding the Spanish market. I'm sorry, the French market. Maybe spend time grinding the ultra modern market. If you got really obsessed with something, I personally have that type of personality. If I start entering into a thing that I love, I go all in terms of my time, which again, there is also another conversation that's also not that good, but it is what it is. I'm being honest. if you got all, there is an expression in Portugal that says, if you are very obsessed with something, you become a professional. And I honestly believe in that. Again, just my thoughts.
First, I completely agree with you. First, like, I want to take that adage that everyone says, like, collect what you love. Like, it's not just buying what you like. It's find something that you are passionate about, to put in the time to actually come to the conclusions you actually want to get to. That's why it's collect what you love, not like, oh, I'm just going to buy, like, if I'm going to look at Marvel cards as a whole right now, I'm not just buying PMGs. I'm going to research all of the history, the comic books, the action figures, everything. I need to find the reasons why a specific, like, I'm going to put my time and effort into a very specific niche of that medium. It takes a lot of time to come to that conclusion, and it's not going to be off the most recent sales or whatever's hot at the minute. And like, the second thing I want to say too is that, like, I have a story to share. So this is like right at the start of the first soccer boom, and I had maybe like 100 2018 or 100 2018 Prism Mbappe's, hottest card on the market, and I had them all in my house. I'm not gonna like flaunt them and show it off. I had a guy come over and he wanted to buy like maybe like 10 of them from me. And he asked me, it's just like, why are you giving me a deal on these? You can just like list them on eBay. Like, don't you think the cards are going to go up?
Yeah.
And I told him, it's going to be impossible for me to time the market perfectly and exit out of all 100 of these cards at the apex of the market. I've thought about this a lot, and there are people that need to release the inventory along the way up to legitimize and build the market on the way up as it goes to the top. So if I'm going to try to hold to the very beginning, to the very perfect moment, and dump it all into the market, you're going to sabotage yourself immediately on the way there. Like, what people tend to forget when you're looking at these charts and they become obsessed with them is that the apex of the charts are just a few sales. It's maybe like 4 or 5 people buying at the very top. It's not that many. The bulk of the sales are on the way up, and the bulk of the sales are after the cards settle. Like, that's where things are actually happening. Like, you can't ever think that you're going to be that one lucky guy that makes the extra 30-40% on the card, because you get super lucky with that one transaction. And then there's all the risks of doing transactions in cardboard, right? Like shipping the card, the payment, the returns, all the nonsense. Like, there's so much that happens. That happens.
For sure. I mean, well said. I agree 100%. Yeah. But moving to the next question, and I guess not exactly about this one, but the conversation can continue. Basically, is end up asking you that. Basically, I said you collect way more stuff than soccer, understanding that and soccer is probably your main market at this point. But end up asking you what other markets, what other collectibles you believe in the long run. Your answer was a little bit vague, but for example, I know you collect F1. So, for example, on F1, what's the reason that that makes you believe on the market in the long run, or even short term?
So, the long run, I saw the demographics of people. You know, you just look holistically at the demographics of people who watch F1. Like, you watch. It went back to my thesis of seeing Topps invest into that European infrastructure, where they went from most popular sport, then second most popular sport. You want to see a collecting market grow. You want to see the product sell out. You want to see them do it in a way where people are actually going to want the cards. They immediately attached a flagship brand. They put it Topps Dynasty, then they released Topps Chrome. They didn't try to make a paper product first. They didn't put out some BS effort. They were all in on trying to make it a success. And I can tell you with certainty, when you look at something like that from a corporation perspective, right? There's a lot of smarter people at Topps who have been in this space a lot longer than I have. And for them to apply that brand name to a sport in the manner that they did, in the way that they executed it, should tell you a lot of how much they believe in the future of that specific niche. And sometimes it's just following the breadcrumbs. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. Just pay attention to what people are like, what the company is trying to promote, how much time, effort, and resources they're putting into building it. And it's easy to see the results because of how much they believed in it. And we're looking at it now. Like I'm sure like very wealthy people have amassed their positions within F1. They had the money to put it down. I was in a side chat with my friend was in a side chat with the underbidder on the Hamilton superfractor, and they were like complaining that they couldn't win the card, so they were going to go out and buy a few $100,000 car after losing the Hamilton superfractor. But like these are the things that like all the organic pieces that you want in a developing hobby all came into place, and it's working out perfectly. But that's a once in a lifetime chance. Like, where else are you going to find opportunities like that? And just stay like, keep in mind of what's hitting the market, right? Like, look at future releases and try to analyze and understand from that.
No, yeah, for sure. Again, F1 is another market that I'm not in. The reason is that I don't know. I mean, probably it's a great market. I just don't know, and I never end up liking the sport that much. So automatic was something that for me does not end up not making a lot of sense. But I believe this is the podcast number 7, and a lot of my guests, I would not say everyone, but probably close to every guest I had on this podcast, they collect F1. So it's crazy to think about. And yeah, I mean, it's quite hot in the market. So
yeah, it's hot. I mean, I opened cases of Chrome on release day, and nobody was excited about it, like super excited about it then. But like, you know, you're talking long term, right? Like, I literally got into F1 because I believed in the market. I had some friends I knew who loved F1, and I wanted to reintroduce them to just enjoying the hobby in passion, right? Because like, think about the current collecting climate that we have right now. It is basically impossible to buy an affordable hobby box and go through the process that you and I had got to enjoy to making money, right? Like ripping a box card, grading the cards for $12, getting some PSA 10s, making some money, and enjoying the hobby for what it was, right? Here I had it. Yeah,
I never did that actually.
You never did that. I mean, it's harder. It's harder for Europeans. I know it's harder for Europeans.
And I always like to buy single, even in TCGs, for example, Magic. The market. The market for graded cards versus sealed product, the sealed product is bigger in Magic the Gathering at this point. And I never enjoyed that for some reason. I'm always a singles guy. But again, that's personality.
Yeah, see, that's your Magic the Gathering vein, like expected value on ripping a box. Why would I rip a box if I could just buy singles?
No, but Miles, what I was trying to say is there is a lot of people buying boxes from the new set and putting that on the closet and forget about. I'm talking about investing in sealed product. Is quite big in Magic the Gathering.
It should be.
You probably know about Alpha Investments. Rudy is an example of that. He also have a lot of PSA cards. By the way, he's one of the biggest collectors for PSA graded alpha and beta. But most of his money that he puts right now goes into sealed product, and he makes a killing doing that in sports cards. And actually, I had a question related with this a couple of weeks ago. People end up telling me why I don't make content about sealed product, or at least why there is not a lot of content about sealed product in YouTube on the soccer card market. I personally think it's difficult.
It's not affordable.
Exactly, because the thing with the Magic or Pokemon is the box is $700, at best $100. Now that there is some type of premium products, but normally in the past end up being, let's say, $100. If you want to buy a box from almost any random set in soccer, is what, $300, $400. So you are already even in sealed product, there is a lot of price in effect when it comes to sealed product. And the big difference between, for example, Magic and soccer is in Magic there is always people trying to buy boxes to draft with friends, to try to have a nostalgic moment. In soccer, if you invest in 1 year that the rookie class end up being trash, look, there is a scenario you can actually lose money on sealed product in soccer. So things are honestly quite complex. And even again, in baseball and basketball, sometimes I see a couple of content creators, they say everything is safe when it comes to sealed product. I honestly don't think so. I mean, especially because the narratives on sets are changing all the time. Today stops Chrome, tomorrow will be, I don't know, Bowman. What I'm trying to say is sometimes the narratives tends to change even on the set you are investing. In Magic, there is not, basically you buy the set. There is no other product. Is that so? Is basically different.
Again, to your point, from this is something that like the stories I can only give you from experience, right? This is 2005, 2006. Sorry, 2000. Is it 2000? Yeah, I think it's 2005, 2006. I'm in Southern California. I'm going to college, and the hot rookie class of the time is Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Lendale White, like players you have probably don't know, but they're all the hottest guys out of NFL football. And everyone thinks that this is an all-time rookie class. So all the dealers at the time, Upper Deck had the license for football. So everyone was stacking cases and cases and cases of NFL exquisite. Well, guess what? The product sucks now. Nobody wants it. Upper Deck lost the football license. The entire market landscape has changed, and I could go out and buy a Reggie Bush rookie patch autograph that was at one point $5,000 out of a $500 box for less than what the box costs. And like, this is like, not everything is safe in the way that you think it is, but like, again, it's the differences between markets that play out and how quickly things can change, just like as you were saying.
No, I mean, for sure. Look, the reality is that there is a lot of bad content out there. That's honestly the reality. I'm not saying my content is perfect, because I also say stupid things all the time. And that's part of making a lot of content. If you stay a lot of time on YouTube, eventually you'll say something that you regret, or at that point you end up not understanding one question very well, or your thoughts end up being a little bit over the place. But there is a lot of bad content on YouTube, and I think people need to be aware of that. I mean, look, for example, you have so many people trying to compare the stock market with the card market. I mean, that's so unfair if you think about it, because look, the card market until 2 years ago, 3 years, the growth was not that special. The stock market was outperforming the card market by a country mile. But look, a lot of content creators, they peak on the boom and they make their example. Look, they are correct. I mean, if you look at in the last 2 years, probably most of the big cards in soccer end up outperforming the mutual funds, stock markets, etc. But the reality is, look, you need to understand a different perspective. One thing that people need to understand, and this is honestly very basic stuff, is if you are investing, for example, in a company that is very well known, look, expecting 7% of return is fine. If you are investing in a startup, a company that, look, the potential is amazing, but the risk is huge, you need to get at least 15% return. But a lot of people still go to the 7%. So if people are saying that soccer cards, NBA cards, whatever, are outperforming the market, look, that makes sense, because the risk is also quite bigger. I mean, so if right now, let's say the stock market end up giving in the last 2 years 20%, I have no idea, I'm putting random stats. If the soccer card market did the same, that's a disaster for the soccer card market, because the money you end up putting into soccer was at risk in a different level, and people need to be aware of this. And saying that the card market will outperform the stock market, I personally do not believe in that. I believe there is a lot of potential in collectibles. I believe the future can be great. But if I want to put big money, I will still go to a more conservative investment, if that makes sense.
And like, that's the other thing. Like, this market is so risky, right? Like we're talking about, like, if you want to take that conversation over to like collectible card games, the investment thesis is technically so frail on Magic the Gathering, because like, it's an arbitrary list that Wizards of the Coast released in the reserve list. If they ever decide to abolish that for whatever particular reason, your investments could be at risk. I doubt it, because the original ones are always worth more. Like that's a discussion for another day. But
yeah,
okay. a lot of like
I also doubt it. Even if they take out the reserved list, look, there is a lot of bad cards on the reserved list. On those, I agree. They actually can lose a lot of money. But let's say Black Lotus is on the reserved list.
I was referring more like channel, or like the number of times they printed Mana Drain at this point, right? Like they constantly devalue it, or like the reprints of Force of Will. They're constantly, like, I don't think that's on the reserve list, but constantly redoing it over and over and over again, right? Like, or like what they've beaten down with Tarmogoyf over and over and over, right? Until it was like nothing.
But Miles, I'm sorry, not related with what you are saying, but for example, the Tarmogoyf, I actually believe there is opportunity buying the first print on
the Future Sight ones.
Future Sight, the foil one.
Oh man, I had a playset of Japanese foils back in the day. That was fun.
It's quite, I also had Japanese, I had Chinese. I look, I ended up putting too much money on Magic at one point in time. But this is a random example. I also believe the first Jace the Mind Sculptor foil, I believe, is World Wake, right?
Yeah,
also have a lot of potential. But again, most of my viewers don't care about this. So let's move on.
But yeah, I mean, great things. Like, you know, things change, and again, it's about research, time, and learning, right? Like, learn from people who have clearly been in the space. You mentioned Alpha Investments, like you can clearly tell how long he's been in the space. Find people that you can learn from that have been in the space, because like most of the people out there making content haven't been in the space more than a couple of years. Like, there are people who dedicate their lives to this and have, like, how am I going to say this? There are so many people, and it's a relatively small community of people that have dedicated their lives to this, to bring the market from point A to point B. Just because you're existing now and you've only learned the things that have happened in the market trends that have happened the last couple of years doesn't erase the last 50, 100 years of collectibles that people have constantly been in this space for. Do your research, learn about who you're listening to. That's really the most important thing I can tell you.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes the problem is people trying to be what they are not. You know what I'm trying to say? Sometimes is, look, you end up talking about F1. I'm honest, I don't know a lot about F1, and that's fine. That's you know, that's fine.
Great. That's what people need to embrace. But you know, it's okay. That's fine. You learn.
But exactly like that. As long you are being honest, as long, look, it's not a market that I know a lot. It's fine. Like I was saying, sometimes people tend to be what they. I guess in America there is expression, fake it until you make it. And
yeah, I hate it.
But there is a lot of that actually.
Yeah.
So again, I talk about what I know. If people want to talk about pre-modern, I mean, everyone can join me on a conversation. I feel comfortable. People want to talk about ultra-modern in soccer. I'm honest, I don't feel comfortable, because I know there is people that spend more time on that market that know way more than me. You are probably a good example of that. But understand that it's normal to not know anything, but focus in something that you really like. Look, I like vintage, I like pre-modern. In other collectibles, I like Magic, I like OCG, Yu-Gi-Oh! I focus a lot on those markets. I don't even try to pretend to know the other markets. Sometimes I invest in stuff that I actually do not know a lot, but sometimes that's, for me, is the entry point to start researching about the market I'm investing. But that being said, is quite rare. When I'm into a new market, Star Wars, Marvel, whatever, is a sign that I already spent a lot of time. So look, today I end up sharing a lot of Star Wars cards on my Instagram. And you probably remember, I believe I even end up talking with you. I was on the Star Wars Galaxy market way early.
You were on the original Star Wars Galaxy market too.
Way earlier exactly than most people, because but the thing is, for example, this card that is quite hot on the market, the Kurosawa, that the original name is actually Seven Jedi. That card is actually a reprint, and a lot of people do not know that. That card ended up actually coming out, I believe, in Series 7, if I'm not mistaken. But come on, do you believe people know that investing on the cards right now? No, like I said, people do not put time into the market. People, they see an influencer talk about that card, they follow that influencer. What they are not aware is that influencer also do not know a lot. That's the problem. And so you make bad decisions into bad decisions. That other guy made bad decisions. So it's crazy.
like that's such a I've seen the transactions where the influencer that is selling the card doesn't know anything about it. They push the card onto somebody else that also doesn't know about it. A large transaction happened, and it only further perpetuates the cycle of ignorance along the way, because the person purchasing it, if you don't know anything about the asset that you're purchasing, you're throwing large amounts of money on, then you definitely are purchasing it solely for the purpose of an investment vehicle. And if you don't even know the long-term investment potential of that investment vehicle, what are you buying it for? Just for well, honestly, what are you buying it for?
Yeah,
really, it's a bad cycle that needs to change. But hopefully, people
Miles, you know what? In the end, every card needs a home, and people forget about that. In the end, look, the cycle keeps going, but at one point in time, that card needs to stay for a couple of years with someone. And tend to think about this when you buy a card. Look, is this a card that, even if I'm flipping right now the card or trying to write some type of wave, is this a card that I can see a collector actually, look, this is a card that for me, again, not saying it's about the money, is already is relative, because we need to pay money for those cards, but that the money is not even the most important thing, is almost what that card represents. And a lot of cards right now in the market, I'm not talking about soccer, F1, talking in general, they lack that, and that's the problem. Is cards that I question myself, but okay, is a cool card, but at this price, there is a collector that will be okay holding the card for years, and not even caring about what they are paying, and that conversation gets a little bit tricky in my perspective.
You know what? Another thing I want to bring up too is like a fallacy that I keep hearing in this market is that people look at like a pop count of a card and they're like, oh, well, the Kobe pop is like 7,000, 10,000 or something. There's 10,000 Kobe fans in the world that will buy this card, right? Like, obviously that card's price will go up. First off, that specific one card's population does not indicate all of the cards all of the Kobe card populations, all the different, if you want to talk specifically rookie year, there's all the variations of the rookie year card available in several different grading companies available. So it's not just one specific pop of one specific grade you should be looking at. It's the entire population of everything available, all the decisions of the cards that someone could potentially buy in every single category. The other thing that's incredibly important with this calculus as well is that how often is that card appearing on a marketplace to be transacted? Because yes, there may be more people that desire to purchase that card that pushes the price up. But if the card continues to be available on the marketplace, then you need a huge groundswell of buyers to constantly buy that card to push up the price. Yeah. So the more it needs so much market activity to get to that point. And the thought isn't the thought process shouldn't be as basic as that, because there's so many more folds to this that happen.
No, I mean, yeah, I agree again. I mean, look, sometimes, and let's go into the other question. What's your most unpopular opinion in the card market, in the soccer card market? And I will start on this one. And I actually end up sharing this on my last podcast. Is there is a lot of people that is investing in cards that they should not be investing in cards, and this is a reality check for a lot of people, honestly, that they might think I'm being rude right now or something, but I honestly believe you need to invest in yourself first before going into a super speculative asset. Have your life in a nice place, not in a perfect place, because that's no one apart from a few people will have that, but be comfortable putting, look, let's say you are buying a card for $100. be okay at least if that $100 tomorrow is $20, because that could happen to you. And if that money can impact your life in a negative way, do not put into the market. I know this is a very bearish take in the market, but I don't care. I think sometimes it is better to say this type of stuff, because maybe there is one guy, maybe there is two guys that listen to this and they reconsider what they are doing on the market, and I will feel happy with that result being real.
My collecting thesis has improved so much when I took a step back several years ago and I wrote out goals of like what cards I wanted to acquire and like what it would take to get there, right? Like trying to draw out a plan, executing it. The plan's never going to go exactly the way you want to, but there's a reason why you make all the decisions you make. You know, I watched a YouTube video the other day of a guy who was heavily invested in Zion and Jaw. He spent tons of money buying high-end Zion and Jaw Morant, and I'm sure he just got crushed in the last year over these investments. And his YouTube video was about him opening a line of credit to go off and chase vintage baseball all of a sudden. And like when you're sitting there and you think out a plan of how you're going to execute everything and how you're going to do it, right? In my mind, if I were to scribble down that plan, I'm already in the red from my other investments. So I'm going to not sell my other investments and go take out a loan to go chase a market that I'm not familiar with, because if I looked into the market, I would see that the return of growth that I'm looking at the assets I'm buying is probably going to be below the dollar amount that I'm going to pay on the interest of the loan that I'm going to be taking out. So why would you be doing that in the first place? No holistic thought has been going into the process, because as soon as he executed that loan, the timer starts for him to start to try and make money from the assets that he bought. And it's a dangerous game to play.
Oh yeah.
Thought is like, planning is everything. Planning and research is literally everything.
So about that again, me living in America is not in America, in Portugal is way more difficult to see people struggling with the credits for cards. That's almost not even a thing. But people tell me that in America that's a huge problem, and that's something that I cannot even imagine to consider something like that. I mean, if you are getting credit cards to pay for cards, that's awful. People need to understand one thing. You buy a card, let's start with $10. For $10 on PLCC, then you get the card. To sell that, let's say you sell the card for $12 in the next auction, good chance you actually lose money even selling for $12, because you need to pay a fee to the to PLCC. If you sell outside of PLCC, you need to deal with shipping. So there is so many fees related that sometimes, to at least in my experience, to have profit on a card, and depends if you're talking about a super expensive card or not, but sometimes you need to have 20% or at least more than 20% of margin. Otherwise, it's not even worth it, and there is a chance you lose money. So I say this a couple of times on my Patreon, on my YouTube. Look, cards are probably not the best place to make money. Cards are an amazing place to have a nice time and potentially to see returns, but two different things. If you guys really want to make a lot of money, look at other markets. I mean, markets that are a little bit more liquid, markets that have more history, if that makes a lot of sense. Because if you think you'll find that on cards, look, there is a rude awakening. Maybe in the super high end, there is something to be said about that. But let's be real. I'm not playing on that market. I believe you're not playing on that market. And 99.9% of my viewers, or even 100%, are not playing on that market. So people need to have, again, realistic expectations, basically.
Yeah, it's just, I'm going to say it again, it's just literally research, right? Like research and learning. It's just, that's really where people will become successful. You know, like I can ask people like ask yourself questions, right? Like ask questions that nobody else is asking online. Like I hate to keep harping on the Marvel PMGs, but like I remember I was responding to a thread that was like, Well, when do you think people understand how common the pull rates are for the Marvel PMGs? Because they're one per box. So if it's one per box, it's not the same insert as it was in 97 Fleer where you were chasing a PMG one per case. Very different, right? Like I remember telling someone like why I was a huge fan of like the Shining Charizard from Neo Destiny. It's because it was a one per case hit. So like one in every 6 cases you would hit the Charizard. That's how difficult it was to open. Like, what's the dollar cost average to opening an asset for a card? What's the total print run? What's the print run of the set? Ask yourself these questions to test your mastery in what you're planning on investing in, right? Like, I can tell you off the back of my hand, like even to this day, 1100 alpha cards, 3300 beta card, or 3300 beta, like we can go down the list, but you should know these things before you put a tremendous amount of money in it. Like you shouldn't be throwing thousands of dollars into a player you've literally never seen play on the pitch or even know what teams he played for, where he came from. Like that's absurd. Don't do that.
And by the way, you don't need to know that from the top of your head. We know that because we are addicted to this type of stuff. I believe actually Magic the Gathering Alpha, the number of rares is 1.1k. I could be wrong, but I
Yeah, I
believe
said
that's.
1100, right? 1100.
Oh, you said okay. So yes,
1100.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. Look, there is a side of the hobby and related maybe with my unpopular take that also makes me sad in the sense that sometimes, look, I follow the Pokemon market since I have some base set, and you see YouTube channels that they sell packs, and you see people buying packs with the hope that they can change their life. Is I don't know. It's weird and sad at the same time because let's be real. What are you expecting from sometimes even a ultra modern set?
Mhm.
So it's really a little bit sad that that person maybe end up saving $20, $10, I don't know, to buy a pack that potentially can give that person a $100 card, and that's I feel sad when I see that type of stuff because even if that person gets that card, long run that person lacks basic knowledge on the market and eventually will turn that $100 into bad decisions that will go back to
Mhm.
$10 that will go back to zero. And in Pokemon, and I'm not sure if you follow close or not, but there is a lot of that really. The thing with Pokemon is things are not rare, and they rely on PSA, on the SGC to make things condition rarity, but that's not working. That's the problem. I mean, condition
Mhm.
rarity. I mean, there is 2K PSA 10s is not rare. Is not even condition rarity, and again, that's the side of the market. And in soccer, I honestly do not see a lot of that to be real, but in other markets, is honestly crazy.
It's like that's the other thing too, right? Like understanding what kind of rarity you're chasing, understand what you're chasing, why you're chasing it, all these other things, right? Like those are all very important things as to coming to the conclusion as to what you want to buy, right? Like again, collect what you love because there's a lot of research involved in buying an arbitrary piece of cardboard that's worth a lot of money. It's again, it's just a piece of cardboard and a piece of plastic, and they change value very substantially.
Yeah, they are a super speculative asset for sure. So to finish the conversation, and any final thoughts on this that you'd love to talk about?
This is such a trait because there's not many collectors I get to actually like talk to these days because I think the majority of the community is brand new, and the group of community the community of people who collect, like, think about the topics that Andre and I have talked about in this last hour or so, right? Like the things that we can come off the top of our heads just from experience. Like it's just there's a deep, deep, deep rabbit hole of passion and love for like the things that we do, and it's
No,
rare that you get to share it with other people.
look, I get DMs all the time that people say, "Look, you know so much about the pre-modern market, etc." Look, I'm not that special. I'm being
Mhm.
totally honest. I'm just a regular person. I have my struggles like everyone else. The reason I may seem that I know more than you it's not because I'm special. It's just because of my time on the market. If you stay on the market, there is a likely scenario in 10 years from now, you know way more than me, because maybe you even have better capacities than I have. And look, staying on the market a lot of years, eventually, even if you are dumb like me, you'll end up learning stuff, you end up memorizing stuff that you start, like I think to say, you start understanding cycles. Basically, you start understanding, look, okay, things are going down, but the rain one day will stop and the sun will come, and you start understanding this type of stuff. And some people are, I was talking about this even in the other podcast, some people are seeing the first bad side of the market. You know what I'm trying to say?
For the first time.
They basically, in the last 2 years, they saw flowers and everyone was happy. Right now is not the case, and things can actually get even worse. I mean, there is so much stuff going on in the world. Recession on the United States of America seems like is at a crazy, not recession actually. Recession is another problem. I was talking about inflation. There is still a war in Europe, so I mean, things are not looking great. I don't want to be very pessimistic about the market, but I want to be realistic. There is a chance that we can face a long bear market. And for me, honestly, that's an opportunity. It's not a problem. But I believe for a lot of people, that will be a huge problem.
And to go back to your thought about cycles, like I'm sure you've talked about it on your podcast or your shows or everything, but this industry works in cycles, and things may come and go, but the fundamentals and the hard facts of the collectible space you're looking at, those never change. If you're always looking at the best assets are like, you can identify the things that the collectors truly chase within each niche. The fundamentals of those things never change. Like, they will never make more alpha print run Magic the Gathering cards. Like, that fact will always remain. And what I tell people who are like much younger, like if I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self, like whatever knowledge you retain is still relevant to what 30-year-old me knows. And like the time and execution and everything you learn is going to be very different. It's not, there's a reason why all the super successful collectors are older, because they've been through multiple cycles and have stayed with it and learned through each cycle. They've seen the pain, they've seen the growth, and they've seen everything. And that's
Miles,
what everyone else should aspire to.
Actually, I will share with you what take, but I mean, whatever, who cares? I do not watch a lot of content on YouTube related with soccer or even sports cards. I honestly tend to watch way more TCG content than I watch.
Agreed.
There is something that I don't know how to explain, since I'm not American, but, and I know people will get mad at this, I think honestly the sports card community is, I mean,
it's derivative. It's boring. They talk about the same thing over and over again. Like, please get off the thesis that player performance is directly correlated with prices.
And Miles, if people start watching Pokemon content, and in Pokemon there is a lot of trash, by the way, but there is a lot of people like SM Pratt that actually make great content. In Magic the Gathering, there is multiple channels. Alpha Investments is one of the biggest ones. Look, those guys, they really know what they are talking about.
Absolutely.
In sports cards, is honestly quite difficult to find that, because I think it is also that sometimes there is some type of taboo about investing in sports cards, in the sense that people say, oh, you are not a collector. Look, in TCGs, people are quite open about this. I'm buying this because I believe will give me a great return in the future. And they do a lot of analytics. They do a lot of content based on value investing. Look, in soccer, I'm not trying to be rude, but I was one of the first channels trying to push this idea. And that's why I believe, knowing that my channel is quite small, but ended up growing fast at the beginning, because was a lack of that content on the market. Sports cards in general, sport content creators, I believe there is a lack of real knowledge. I'm being totally honest right now, because I don't watch sports cards content. I mean, there is exceptions, of course, but in general, I don't watch. For example, in soccer, I like to watch El Rey, the Owl, because again, the guy really knows what he's talking about the vintage market, but he's very, very rare. I'm being real right now. Look, for example, I also understand fun content. For example, since I can't go to shows in America, I actually like to watch that type of content, because for me, again, at least I have an idea of what's going on. Those videos are fun to watch, but I think that there is also lack of again, there is no better content than the other. It's different, but I like, for example, I like this type of content. I like long conversations. I like people that sit down and basically talk about the market, talk about what they are seeing, talk about the perspective on the market at that point in time, try to make sense, because value investing is trying to find logic when everyone is not finding. And yeah, I mean, I'm being real. I think the sports cars content in general is quite bad. I know people will get mad, but it is what it is.
I mean, the onus is on them to change, right? Like I hate to say things quite like this, but I watch a lot of sports card content to see how far behind the sports card collectors are from where my mentality is at. And you know what? I'm going to say it to every single content creator out there. Yeah, that's exactly what I watch your content for, to see if any of you grow as collectors. And so far, from what I've watched in the last 2 years, they have stayed at point A and then continued to point A. They haven't done anything to grow. And I hope, like, where this market is going to go as we're facing a bear market, the only way this market continues to grow is if actual collectors who do the research and invest the time to build up the markets for all these assets. That's where it's going to go, not just buying the cards of what influencers tell you to buy, because those are all fake artificial markets, and that's really what it is.
And the reality is, talk about timing the market. The person that can actually time the market is the content creator, because he makes the video and puts the cards on eBay or on ProSteam, BWCC, whatever. So there is actually some truth on timing the market for a content creator, but you are not that guy. That's the problem. So you need to be extra aware then that you can be entering a market where the profits or big part of them are already out, if that makes sense. So.
Yep. All right, Andre, we've got some Champions League to watch in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, for sure. Miles, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really appreciate. I hope most of my viewers end up enjoying this one. If that's the case, do not forget
I did,
like.
my friend. I enjoyed it,
and that's amazing. So, guys, see you guys next time. Again, leave a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. See you guys soon. Bye.